Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be having a Gilbert Burns fighter showcase, and this was requested by a subscriber a couple weeks ago called Aaron. So Aaron, thank you for the comment, thank you for the request, and I hope you enjoy the video. And to everyone else that's watching, I hope you enjoy the video and learn something new. So the first gameplay clip is going to be in Division 20 against the Division 20 opponent. This was from last season and it was a phenomenal fight against Khamzat Chimaev. So both the men in this gameplay here have received a buff. Khamzat got a significant buff and Burns also got a pretty decent buff after their phenomenal fight. I mean, that fight was absolutely outrageous, and the only real issue with that fight was it wasn't 5 rounds. I would like to see that be a 5-round fight because one of them wasn't going to make it. So it would have been very interesting to see who would have dug deeper in the championship rounds. But getting into the gameplay here, you can see that Khamzat Chimaev has done what he had to do and taken me down. But with Gilbert Burns, rest assured you don't really need to be worried about much when it comes to the ground game, especially if you're fairly confident and you're good with submissions. Gilbert Burns is going to be the perfect fighter for you. He just has extremely good reversals and off his back has phenomenal submissions. And then when it comes to being on top, he has the phenomenal submissions as well. And it's, it's just very easy to grapple with Burns. Very good. He just feels very smooth, easy to deny transitions, and he's got two of my favourite submissions. He's got the Kimura from side control, which transitions into the armbar, and he's got the armbar from side saddle and crucifix. So when it comes to grappling, if my fighter has either of those, I'm very, very happy with that. And if he has both, I'm over the moon. And Gilbert Burns is one of those fighters that does have both, thanks to his phenomenal jiu-jitsu. And you can see that the position's been reversed, and now Khamzat's on his back. And this is exactly where you want Khamzat. I mean, if you keep the fight on the feet, Khamzat's obviously got better stats now and can hold his own a bit more than he could have prior. However, Khamzat still doesn't have the best stand-up in the division, especially when you would look at the elite strikers. You've got people like Leon Edwards, Wonderboy, Luke. You've got a lot of good strikers in this division, so he's not someone that you'd particularly want to stand with or keep the fight standing. You definitely have to get the fight to the ground. And to the ground, I mean, you have to be the one on top. You can't really be on the bottom. As you see, a double reversal there. He reversed me and then I reversed him. So Khamzat being on his back is extremely important if you're facing a Khamzat and you're using someone like Gilbert Burns. You can definitely look to utilise the stand-up, and I will look to utilise that in the rest of the gameplay. You will see that there are moments where the fight is standing and I utilise Gilbert Burns' arsenal in kicks, and not only just kicks. Gilbert Burns has got phenomenal boxing, a lot of power too. So yeah, definitely look to utilise those aspects. You can definitely look to utilise the clinch. He's got the standing submission, so if Khamzat goes for a takedown and has, not the best stamina levels, you can threaten the submission instantly and look to get a finish off there. He just has so many tools to utilise, and I feel like that's why he's one of the better fighters in the division. One of my very first videos, I think it might have either been my third or fourth video, would have been why Gilbert Burns is the best welterweight in UFC. And I still stand by that now. Although I like to use Colby Covington, I like to use Leon Edwards, I still feel like Burns is definitely my favourite welterweight to use, just because of how versatile Burns really is. The only hindrance when it comes to Gilbert Burns, I feel like once he gets cracked once, it's very easy to get cracked from then on. And yeah, that's the only real hindrance I can think of. Apart from that, stamina's great, movement's great, feels really crisp and smooth, good power in his hands and kicks, even though obviously he's predominantly not a big kicker, but good to throw leg kicks with, and that's a tool that I utilise often. And you can see that in the Khamzat fight, when Gilbert did throw a leg kick, it would get a big reaction out of Khamzat. So that's another thing to take note of, and that's something that I'm trying to mimic when using him. And you can see that I took my opponent down briefly, went to deny his get up because that's what I was expecting, because that transition is really quick, but Khamzat done a good job there of getting back to the feet. But like I said, on the feet you can be fairly comfortable, just because Gilbert Burns got phenomenal power, clean boxing, good arsenal of kicks. He's got the kick that pushes the opponent back. And here you can see that obviously Hamzat isn't liking how it's going on the stand-up, which is, you know, it does make sense. Hamzat is going to have the advantage when it comes to being on top on the ground, but that threat is sort of neutralized just because of how good Burns' jiu-jitsu is and just overall ground game, because although Hamzat is phenomenal on the top, you really need to look for ground and pound or a couple submissions here and there. With Gilbert Burns, that's going to be incredibly tough to submit, especially when Gilbert has great submission defense and my stamina's as high as it is. So you can see that even though Hamzat's taking me down, I'm going to end up getting the better of the exchanges just because of how good the reversals are. Stamina management's in a good position, and it's exactly what I'm going to look to do throughout the fight. I have no issue with being taken down, really, unless my opponent has phenomenal ground game and is completely demolishing me on the ground. Then I won't have any issue at all with other fighters taking me down while using Gilbert Burns, because they're going to waste their stamina, get onto the ground, end up getting reversed or get caught in a submission. So by taking me down sometimes isn't the smartest thing to do with Burns, because it can give me that little pathway, little bit of success, and I can end up getting a finish via submission, or easily reverse the position and end up to, you know, work a submission victory from there. And that's exactly what you've got to do with Burns. I mean, you can't really be worried about getting onto the ground. I feel like a lot of people use Burns now that have come up against the line and predominantly stand and strike with him, which again, there is no issue because he is a good striker. Definitely not, he's up there in the division, not one of the elites, but he is a fantastic striker. But there will be times I'm using Leon and people will be using Burns and won't even threaten the ground game once. And to me, that's absolutely insane, because that's what's really, you know, the biggest thing about Gilbert Burns is how good his grappling is, how good his jiu-jitsu is. So whenever you are using Burns, make sure to mix in those takedowns, because the longer you keep the fight on the feet, especially against an elite striker, the more chance it is that you will eventually get caught with something, especially if you're coming up against the Leon Edwards, Wonder Boy. And you can see Hamzat again, start of the third round, didn't like what was happening in terms of the feet. You can see that Hamzat was getting worked a little, throwing good leg kicks, good body shots, hitting with a clean overhand. And yeah, Hamzat instantly goes for the takedown, which is the right thing to do. But again, goes for the takedown, I get onto my back, deny the transition, and end up reversing the position. And now I'm on top without having to have worked for a takedown. Can build up control time, look to throw some decent ground and pound. And if the submission is on, I will submit Hamzat Chimaev. But I'm a very patient and methodical fighter. I'm waiting for the right opportunity. You can see here that right now the goal is just to inflict as much damage as possible. I'm trying to capitalize on this position. Could have gone for the submission there, but I didn't see the stamina flash, and normally that is what I wait for, unless, you know, I'm in dire need of a submission, the round's about to end and I've lost all the other rounds. So I'm being very patient. Right now, even if Hamzat gets me out of these positions, it's not the end of the world, because as long as I can still throw these elbows and weaken the head health, that's definitely going to pay dividends in the future, because the next round, obviously, the fight's going to start on the feet, and when it does start on the feet, Hamzat's head health is going to be a little lower, and the stamina level isn't going to be where it needs to be at. And not only that, by just constantly working the heads and draining the stamina by denying transitions, I can end up working a submission that little bit easier. So whenever it is on the ground, the main two things I'm looking to do with Gilbert Burns is drain stamina and set up the submission finish. I'm not really going for a ground and pound finish, although it may look like that on screen now with the amount of elbows I'm throwing. The elbows is just to whittle away at Hamzat's head health, and the submission will be coming. So I'm throwing the elbows here to get my opponent subconsciously thinking that that's the way the fight's going to be, you know, finished. I'm just going to look for the ground and pound elbows, and in reality, it's just so my opponent doesn't pre-deny the Kimura from side control, or it depends what submission I'm going for. I could be in a different position to go for the rear naked choke or something along those lines, but I'm conditioning my opponent in these rounds here to not pre-deny the Kimura, because I'm seeing a lot more people starting to get aware of how good that submission is, even though I've been saying it for a good year now, how good that submission is. But a lot of people are getting used to denying it, which is fantastic because it gets them out of a terrible position. I think if you saw the stats there for that round, I think Hamza only managed to get one significant strike, and if you don't know how fights are scored, significant strikes are the, main factor there, especially when it's damage done. That's how the judges will really see the fight. And I get the stun there. You can see the stamina level is absolutely phenomenal for this round 4 here. I mean, 95% stamina at round 4 is pretty much unheard of. So if you can get this, if you can replicate this sort of performance against your opponent, whether it be a Hamza, a Leon, a Usman, a GSP, there's a wide range of opponents you can use at welterweight. I mean, welterweight definitely is the best division in the game in terms of fighter options. You can really look to diversify how you want to use and who you want to use. As you see, I get stunned there, but I'm not overly worried because my head health is in a great position. It just caught me as I was going to the body, and that's always the risk of going to the body. Hamza also has that perk, I think, with hooks and uppercuts, so it's to be expected to get stunned. Now I just can't afford to get stunned again because I don't want Hamza to build up a flurry, potentially get a knockdown and secure this round, especially after very dominating prior 3 rounds. And you can see the shot I hit Hamza with wasn't even the biggest. It's just because of all the work done in the rounds prior that it was fairly easy to get that stun. And that's where the elbows on the ground really paid dividends. You can see Hamza went for the takedown there, got denied, went into the clinch, landed a knee, and then Hamza takes my back. Here isn't the best position to be in. Just across the game, it doesn't matter who you're with. You could be using Damian Maia, you can be using Brian Ortega, you can be using Gilbert Burns, all got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. This just isn't the place to be, just because of how strong that rear naked choke is. However, I've made the right adjustments in the sense that got the denier there. I'm very cautious of the rear naked choke, and stamina is in a great position. It's very hard to submit someone who has great stamina management, good submission defense, and then the fighter they're using has good submission defense. So overall, I'm not as worried, just because of how confident I am in Gilbert Burns' submission defense and where my stamina level's at. However, it is still something that I'm going to be wary of. And Hamzat takes my back there, which is an extremely dominant position, and luckily enough I was able to get half guard. Whilst in half guard, I'm not overly worried about anything else. I take Hamzat's back here, and I've only got 42 seconds to work with, so I know I can't get the submission finish, so I opt to just, wait here, see what my opponent's going to do, get the denier there, and just sort of show my opponent that there is levels to it. If I take your back, I'm going to deny these transitions, and if I want to go for a submission, I will go for a submission finish, but the clock wasn't on my side there, unfortunately. Now, if you don't know what I'm on about in terms of the clock wasn't on my side, in order to secure a submission finish, you need about 50 to 60 seconds. This is contextual. It does depend on the fight you're using. It does depend on your opponent's ability to get out of submissions, opponent's stamina level. There's a lot of variables that go into it, but a general consensus, a general rule of thumb that I like to utilize is not look for a submission finish unless I have 50 to 60 seconds to work with. So that's why I didn't when I got my opponent's back there. I only had 42 seconds, so yeah, that's the exact reason I didn't go for it. But overall, an extremely clean fight. I mean, the bodywork on the feet's been very, very good. I've worked the leg of Hamzat. Takedown defense hasn't been great, but like I'm saying, I'm not too worried about getting taken down. It's the last thing that's on my mind. Get another stun there, rip to the body, and then I go for the flying knee to try be fancy with it. Gilbert Burns' switch kick is another thing that can be utilised very, very well. It's really fast and does a lot of damage. And right now, Hamzat's just on the ropes. There's not much success here. There's not much Hamzat can do unless he gets a Hail Mary strike. Got a puncher's chance right now, but getting absolutely lit up when it comes to the feet, and when it goes to the ground, there's not much that Hamzat can do either off of his back. But yeah, good head movement, and I'm just utilising all Gilbert Burns' main strengths. The grappling, of course, being the main strength, and then on the feet, I'm utilising his good kicking arsenal, mainly focusing on the boxing to get in up close, but I'm just throwing these leg kicks to put off Hamzat and just slowly picking him apart. It's the 5th round right now. I don't really need to pursue a finish just because of how dominant I have been the past 5 rounds. I don't think I'll show you the stats for the fight just because I hop into the other gameplay, but I easily won every single round. So right here, I don't really need to push for a finish. If it's viable, if it's there, I can definitely take it. But I'm not going to be overly eager because I don't want to overextend and end up getting taken down, which again isn't the worst case in the world. But right now, I just wanted to really utilize Gilbert's stand-up or overextend and then get knocked out as a result of it. And the roundhouse straight into the switch kick. Leg health's absolutely done, so Hamzat has to switch stances. You can see I'm still being patient, although I'm throwing a higher volume output, throwing a lot of significant strikes, and Hamzat's head health is pretty much non-existent at this point. Every time Gilbert's touching him, Hamzat's falling over, and yeah, I know it's not going to take much to get my opponent out of there. I've only got 30 seconds to work with, but I'm very much aware that if I land something big, the fight will be over. Hook breaks through the guard there, jump on top to get the finish. And that's where stamina's huge, because had I not had the stamina level where it was at, Hamzat would have been able to block those strikes and then, you know, evade getting finished there in the 5th. But nevertheless, great fight. Shout out to my opponent who was using Hamzat. Just, you know, Burns was just better on the day, just done a better job of using Gilbert Burns. So obviously I didn't get a submission finish there. I got a ground and pound finish, which is I wouldn't say surprising because Gilbert definitely has that power, but I was definitely looking to get the submission finish. So in the gameplay clip here, I'm coming up against Kamaru Usman, obviously the current pound for pound king, current welterweight champion, and just looking absolutely phenomenal. And this is when the season's reset, so I'm in a lower division, and when the season resets, obviously you're coming up against an opponent that is in a lower division, but you never actually know how good that opponent is, just because any opponent could be at the division. You could have been division 20, you could have been top 100, and all of a sudden you're in division 5. So whenever the season resets, I don't really look at the divisions too much, just because it's not a very accurate representation of your opponent's skill level. You don't actually know where they are, so you've got to treat everyone with the same respect in regards to player ability. You've got to think that they're going to be the absolute best of the best. But here I got Kamaru down, denied the transitions, got into crucifix, and this is how easy it can be. And it's not just against low level players that you can do this, it's against any players. I showed this last season when I was using Thug Rose and Valentina, that this submission is so strong, this armbar here. And yeah, like I'm saying, it doesn't need to be against people that aren't good at the game. You can really attempt this against the best of the best, and it will cause a lot of problems. So get the submission finish relatively early on in the 1st round, and that's exactly what you can do. Here I'm jumping into a fight against Conor McGregor, who at welterweight of course isn't going to be the same, but still transfers the power that Conor does have. And I'm starting this fight in the 2nd round just because I was cautious of the video being too long. In the 1st round, my opponent, if I remember correctly, definitely had the better of me in terms of damage done and done an overall good job. I think I did get the fight to the ground towards the end of the 1st round, but didn't really do too much with it. I did go for a submission attempt in the last probably 30 seconds, I believe, but that was just to continue getting some control time and stop my opponent from trying to get up. But early on in the 2nd, get my opponent into some dominant positions inside saddle as of now, because he managed to get out of crucifix. And I just wanted to show you this because it's just me, you know, really grappling well with Gilbert Burns, and I just want to show you the level you can be at whilst using Gilbert Burns. Of course, here in this matchup, stylistically, it's a very good matchup for Gilbert Burns, because of course Conor isn't going to be as good off of his back. You know, there's not much Conor's going to be able to do, and he tries to sweep into full guard here and does a good job. And this is the problem of getting takedowns against the cage, is that certain fighters will have easy access to reversals and sweeps because the cage wall is there. So that's why I like to get my takedowns in the center of the octagon. And here's why it's important to know who you're fighting against. So fighting against the McGregor here, get him into rubber guard, and you can see that I done some good damage. But one thing I knew straight away is that he doesn't have stack guard from that position, so I'm going to get into rubber guard again. And I'm just trying to show you how good rubber guard can be if you deny the transitions. You can do a lot of damage to whoever you're fighting's head health. Like, you can absolutely rinse their head health, and not only that, you can drain their stamina. And then from here I can transition to top mount or to side control. But I just wanted to showcase how good you can be in rubber guard. I mean, look at this. I'm denying the transitions, I'm bursting Conor McGregor's head open, stamina levels going down for my opponent because the transitions are getting denied. My control time's also going up, get another deny there, and then go for the triangle attempt here. And I don't end up getting this triangle, I don't think, but I believe it is fairly close. Had I have gone for the armbar, the fight probably would have been done there and there, but I wanted to mix it up and go for the triangle, and I missed the chain. If had I get that chain, fight's definitely done, but unfortunately I don't, and Conor McGregor does a good job of getting out. But the rubber guard is so good. If you get someone in the rubber guard that doesn't have stack guard and they can only go to the left or right, and you learn how to deny that transition, you can do a lot of damage. As you can see, I get the reversal here and I'm back on top with 10 seconds to go. Go for an armbar just for the sake of it. Arm triangle, sorry, just for the sake of it. But yeah, the rubber guard's something that I don't see utilised as much. I see people getting it, throw one strike and then transition into side control or top mount, when really you can keep your opponent there for a long time and just whittle away at their head health. Just elbows, and then if you feel like you have to advance, just swap over the position. But yeah, that's going to be the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. Any content suggestion, let me know in the comments below. Hamzat Chimaev video is currently being worked on. Thank you for 298 subscribers. I really appreciate all the support, and I'll see you next time.